All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Hannah O'Brien. I am the program manager for the Veteran Spouse Network based out of the University of Texas at Austin. Very excited tonight to bring a guest on to get to talk about navigating VA benefits, questions we get asked about a lot. So happy to have someone who works on this stuff day in and day out to really kind of give us that need to know information for a lot of concerns that our network has. I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of my other staff members first. Ms. Lorianne Rodriguez is also joining us tonight. Lorianne is the coordinator of our Veteran Family Transition Program, which is very relevant to this topic because as those service members and families are getting out, benefits are a huge topic of interest. Lorianne, anything you wanted to add?
Sure. I am a U.S. Air Force veteran myself and an active duty military spouse. My husband hits 19 years coming up here in June, which means he is now eligible to drop papers, as we say, and retire within the next year. So this transition program is very near and dear to my heart personally as well. So I found a job that very much fits into my personal life and what we are going through as a couple. And that really relates, I think, to a lot of military spouses and couples, military couples, as you make these big decisions in terms of transition, not just navigating the VA, but, you know, big life decisions, where you're going to live, where you're going to retire to, who's going to take lead in employment, you know, all those kinds of decisions that we'll talk about in the transition program. And I'm just very thankful to have our speaker with us today to talk about VA benefits, because Hannah's right. It is absolutely probably one of our biggest questions we get from people all the time.
Thanks, Lorianne. Yeah, I should have mentioned I'm a veteran spouse myself. I met my partner post-service, so this whole world was very new to me. And I know we have a lot of folks in our network who, as spouses, are on either side of that, or are also caregivers to children or adult parents. And so I think this is a topic that really kind of cuts across everybody. We're all, you know, you love a veteran, you're helping care for a veteran, you're dealing with this stuff. And so it's really, I'm really excited to get to talk through it tonight. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our speaker. Mr. Richard Smith is currently serving as the Veteran Service Officer for Coryell County. So does this work day in, day out, knows it probably way better than any of us could, which is good. He is also a retired first sergeant in the United States Army, and we are from the United States Army, and we are so grateful to have you here, Richard, being willing to kind of share your knowledge and pick your brain related to navigating benefits. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you. I did forget to say if we can hold questions to the end as Richard's kind of going through these things. You can either pop them in the chat if you don't want to forget them, and then we'll ask them at the end, or you can save them and then we can come off mute and chat after we get the spiel. So I will turn it over to you, Richard.
Okay, thanks. As Hannah said, Richard Smith. I'm the Veteran Service Officer for Coryell County, and I've been doing the job since April of 2018. So the first year, it was quite a struggle, but eventually you get your feet on the ground and you're able to, give out the information. The purpose of the presentation is to clear up some of the myths that exist regarding the VA, and try and give a basic overview of the VA process. You have to understand that the VA is like the US military, and sometimes you have to drown them in paper in order to get the point across. And I quickly learned that the more paper that you can provide, the better result that you're going to have for the veteran. So let's get started. Basically, who can file a claim? Well, first person is any veteran. And as long as you have a honorable discharge and you served in the U.S. military and you served over 180 days, then if something happened to you while you was in the military, you can file a claim for compensation. National Guard, that's a different story. National Guard, you can only file a claim for injuries, or you can only file a compensation claim for injuries that were suffered if you were activated under federal orders. If you were activated under state orders and you get hurt, the VA is going to deny the claim. What that means is you can serve 30 years in the National Guard, and if you were never activated federally, your chances of getting a claim approved are slim to none, which is unfortunate. I don't agree with it. You know, it says on the uniform, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, whatever. It doesn't say National Guard, but that's the way that's the way that the rules and regulations are written at this time. So that covers the veterans. Spouses can file a claim if the veteran is deceased. If the veteran is incapacitated and she has a power of attorney, then she can file a claim for the spouse. Also, a significant other can file a claim for VA benefits. So if they were living together, but they were never actually married, the significant other can still file a claim for VA. There are certain forms that have to be filled out. There are certain statements that have to be gathered, but it is possible that the significant other can file a claim. How long do you have to file a claim? For a veteran, you can file a claim anytime. I recently helped a World War II veteran who was stationed in Greece in 1946. Everybody thinks World War II ended on May of 1945. That's not true. The U.S. government says that World War II did not end until December 35th, 1946. This gentleman was in Greece. He was engaged in combat operations against communist insurgents. People don't understand, the people don't realize that after World War II, the communists were trying to take over the Greek government. The Greek government asked the U.S. military for help, and military advisors were sent to Greece. And this gentleman had documentation showing that he was in Greece, and he was able to file a compensation claim with the VA and get it awarded. So I was pretty proud of that. So basically, a veteran can file a claim at any time. If you're currently on active duty, the VA has a claim, or has a program in place 180 days prior to your separation or retirement date. You can contact the veteran service officer at your military installation and start your claim. They have the ability to speed up the process for medical examinations and any required paperwork. And the goal of the program, it's called the BDD program, Before Discharge Program. The goal is to have your claim settled by the time that you walk out the door with your retirement check in hand. Also, there's another thing that people don't know, that if you're discharged or you retire from the military, for 365 days after your discharge, anything that goes wrong with you is considered service connected. What does that mean? Say you file a claim with the VA for your injuries that you sustained in the service, but you forgot to file asthma and you develop asthma within 1 year of your discharge date. That asthma is going to be automatically considered service connected. Now, what does that mean? What does service connected mean? Service connected just means that the VA recognizes that the injury you have is related to your military service. The VA has a listing of all job listings in the military. In the Army, we call them MOSs, military occupational specialties. And the VA has a listing of every job that's available in the military and the requirements of that job. So, you know, it's fairly easy to get service connection. How do you get the VA requires 3 things in order to file a claim. The first thing is something that happened to you while you're in the service. How do you prove this? This is proved by your military medical records or your DD Form 214. The second thing is you have to have a current diagnosis. The VA requires that you have be seen with by a medical doctor within 1 year of the condition that you're claiming. Due to COVID, you know, over the last 2 years, it's been hard to see a doctor. So the VA is, you know, they've been kind of waiving that. As long as you've got a diagnosis within 2 years, then the VA is going to accept it. And the third thing that the VA requires is a nexus. And that's a fancy term for how do we tie the condition that you have now to your service in the military. I'll give you an example. Everybody in the military is required to do PT. Up until, I believe it was the late 80s, everybody had to perform their PT wearing combat boots. So basically, if you've been out for a couple of 3 years and all of a sudden you start having problems with your knees, it's all you have to do is get a diagnosis of what the knee problem is, whether it's arthritis, bone spurs, whatever, and file a claim because the nexus is already there. The VA recognizes that you had to do PT in combat boots, and you know you were in the military, showing by your 214, and it's relatively easy to get a claim for knee problems approved. Same thing goes for hearing. The military requires, when you're in basic training, you have to familiarize and or qualify with weapons. Up until recently, the military provided no hearing protection whatsoever. In 1969, when I was in basic at Fort Ord, California, we put cigarette butts in our ears, try and take the rifle fire out. So the VA recognizes that if you're exposed to gunfire, you know, from weapons training, you're going to have hearing problems, either tinnitus or actual hearing loss. If you're in the Air Force and you were a mechanic or somebody working on the flight line, you're going to be exposed to high levels of noise, either from turbine engines or jet engines. You know, so it's relatively easy to come up with a claim for hearing loss. Back problems. If you have problems with your lower back, The military requires you to carry a pack when you're on maneuvers. My son was our son was a Army truck driver. He did 6 combat tours, and he weighed 180 pounds, and he was carrying a 100-pound pack on his back. So it's relatively easy to come up with all you have to have is a diagnosis of back problems, and, hey, I wore a pack. It's going to be relatively easy to get a claim approved. Same thing with neck problems. You have to wear a helmet while you're in the military. So if you develop neck problems, it's going to be relatively easy to get your claim approved. And whenever you file a claim, the VA, when they send the decision letter out, they're going to tell you exactly why they rated you the way that they rated you. And then they're going to tell you what the criteria that you have to meet the next higher rating. Say you're rated at 10% for hearing loss. They're going to tell you what they're going to tell you what criteria you have to meet in order to meet the next higher rating. If they deny a claim, the VA is going to tell you the reason for the denial and what you have to do in order to get the claim approved. And the VA will even, the last sentence on the majority of the denial of claims is the VA may say, we recognize that you have a condition, but you never claimed it. That's just an automatic flag right there to send in a new claim and get your condition approved. Ratings run from 0%, which means that the VA recognizes that the injury is service connected, but you do not qualify for compensation, all the way to 100%. And if you're 100% disabled, then the VA is going to compensate you accordingly. You also have to understand that if your total VA rating comes to over 30%, the VA is going to compensate you, give you extra money for your wife or significant other, any children under the age of 18, or any children under the age of 24 that are attending college. Unfortunately, the money is not retroactive. So I had a good friend of mine who had retired 25 years ago and never knew that he was entitled to extra money for his wife and children. So he finally filed a claim, but it only goes back to the date of the filing. He didn't get the 25 years worth of back pay, which is unfortunate. But this is just one of the things that you're not told by the VA. Let me see here. Oh, one thing that you have to understand also, if you have a rating of 70% or better, and you have one condition that's rated at 40% or better, then you can apply for what's known as individual unemployability. You have to show, you have to list your last 5 years of employment, give the reason for leaving the job, but it's as long as you have a rating of 70% with one rating of at least 40%, then the VA can grant you individual unemployability. If that happens, you're going to be paid at the 100% rate. So that's fairly important to know. Home health care. If the veteran has a rating of 70% or better, and he needs assistance with activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, eating, taking care of the house, if the veteran has a rating of over 70%, then he can apply for home health care, and the VA will pay his care provider a sum of money. And the care provider can be the wife, can be the daughter, can be anybody that the care provider chooses. And you can, the veteran can spend the money on however he can spend it on. He can give it all to the care provider. He can pay the care provider a portion of it, spend it on clothing. The money, there's no accountability for the money. He doesn't have to account to anybody how he spends the money. A spouse can apply for aid and attendance also if the veteran was 100% disabled at the time of his death. Next thing that I want to cover is death benefits, commonly called dependents indemnity compensation. If the veteran is rated by the VA at 100% and he dies of a service-connected illness, then the spouse, significant other, can apply for what's known as DIC. And this is a sum of money. It's approximately $1,350 a month that is paid to the survivor, and this money is tax-free. Now, there's a couple of criteria. Number one, the veteran has to be 100% service-connected. If he has been rated by the VA for at 100% service-connected, and he has been 100% disabled for over 10 years, then if he dies from any condition or anything, the survivor is going to be automatically awarded to DIC. If he has been rated by the VA at 100% for less than 10 years, then the cause of death must be directly attributable to one of his disability conditions. If you are a veteran and you have a current claim with the VA and you have been rated at a certain percentage for over 5 years, it's important to request a reconsideration because more than likely you got worse. And if you meet the criteria, the VA will raise your disability percentage. And if you ever file a claim with the VA and they deny your claim, then you can appeal. The first step is filing a supplemental claim, and at that time you can submit additional evidence in support of your claim. You can request a higher level review. This higher level review is conducted at the VA regional office by a person that was not involved in the original claim process, and all they do is review the evidence that was submitted. You cannot submit any additional evidence. And they will you can either submit the appeal in writing, or you can do it in person. They're normally done by telephone conference. The last resort that you have is you can always go to the Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. You cannot submit any additional evidence. And if you choose to do that, you can submit your appeal in writing, or you can appear in person in Washington, D.C., but that's at your own expense. Now, a lot of people have questions over 214s, your discharge papers. Your 214 is a record of service, and the military changes them every once in a while. When I was in from 69 to 91, so every time I re-enlisted, I got a new DD form. I got a DD form 214, a discharge certificate. Like the first time that I re-enlisted, that time period ran from January of 69 to July of 70 when I re-enlisted. And then the next period of service was from July of 70 to 1974, I think, when I re-enlisted. And then, so in total, I received 6 DD Form 214s while I was in, and I have to have all 6 of them to show my continual service. The way that they do now, the way that they've just recently revised the 214, and what they do is they show your beginning date and your ending date, and that accounts for all of your service. If you're in the National Guard, if you're ever in the National Guard, you only receive a DD Form 214 if you were activated under federal orders. So say you're in the second of the 151st Infantry, and you're activated and sent to Iraq for 18 months. When you come back, when you finish that 18 months period, the military is going to give you a DD Form 214 that covers that period of activation. The rest of the time, you're issued a NGB 22, a National Guard Bureau Form 22, which lists your service time in the National Guard. Okay, there's no such thing as a classified DD Form 214. You may have been assigned to specific units that perform classified missions. That's granted, but say you're in SEAL Team 6. Your 214 is going to show that you were in SEAL Team 6 from whatever date to whatever date. It's going to also show the areas that you were in: Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, Bosnia, whatever. And it's going to give the dates that you were there. Now, you may have performed classified missions, but they're not going to be listed on the 214. It's just going to show that you were in Iraq during a time period. So if you're ever, if a veteran ever approaches you and you say, and you ask him, are you a veteran? And, where's your 214? Well, it's classified. No, he's blowing smoke. Sorry. And I've actually ran across people that tried to file a claim with the VA, and, it's not going to work. Medical records. It's very important when you file a claim, your basic document is going to be your military medical records. The people who have their easiest time getting their VA disability claim approved are the sick call rangers, the people that went on sick call every day, because their stuff is documented in their medical records. I spent 22 years in the Army. I was a MP for 8 years. I was a criminal investigator, CID special agent for 14 years. My military medical records were about 1/4 of an inch thick, because when I was wrestling a drunk or whatever else like this, and I tweaked my back or whatever else like this, I didn't have time to go on sick call. After I finished putting the guy in the D cell, I'd go up to the dispensary, or if it was after duty hours, I'd go to the emergency room, and I knew the doctors, the nurses, I knew the medics on duty, and they say, "What are you doing, Smitty?" And I said, "Well, I got kind of hurt or whatever else like this." They'd give me some ibuprofen or whatever else like this, and no notation was ever made in the military medical records. I just went on about my business. So as a consequence, when I got ready to file my claim, it was a little bit hard, but it's still possible to get a claim approved. All you have to do is write a personal statement or get buddy statements from people that were in the military with you saying, "Oh yeah, I was with Smitty when we arrested this guy and he wrenched his back and had to go to the dispensary." So there's ways around it. But the primary source document is going to be your military medical records. Now, the VA has automatic access to your military medical records. Now, let me give you a caveat on that, okay? When you separate or when you retire, your military medical records are supposed to go to St. Louis. Well, if you call St. Louis trying to get a hold of your medical records, okay, they're going to tell you that they were burned up in a fire in 1973. It don't matter that you retired in 2000. They're still going to say that they were burned up in 1973. So what does that mean? Before you separate, now you have to understand, I retired in 1991, so I've been retired now for longer than I was on active duty. But before I retired, I went to the Xerox, I got my medical records, I went to the Xerox machine, and I made a complete copy of my military medical records. I don't know how it's done today. I don't know if they're on disk. I do know that under this MHS Genesis system, you can go on there and you can download your military medical records. I got treated last month up at Darnell, and Scott and White needed the records. I went on MHS Genesis, put in the date, and boom, there they were, and I printed them off. It was great. So I don't know if the records are on disk. I don't know how it's handled, but it would behoove you before you get off active duty to get a copy of your military medical records so that you got them in your hot little hands when you walk out the door or you retire. And that's important, because if the VA can't find them, your claim is going to go nowhere. Also, if you're being treated by a private doctor, primary care physician, and he works for Baylor, Scott and White or whatever else like this, and you want to claim a condition, the VA has a duty to assist. That means you can fill out 2 forms, and the VA, quote, will make an attempt to get your medical records. That's BS. Okay? Get the records yourself and have your veteran service officer scan them and upload them into the system when you submit your claim. My record is 600 pages. You can only scan 50 pages at a time. Okay, so I broke them down into 50-page sections, scanned them and uploaded them. And when I sent the claim into the VA, I sent 600 pages of medical records in with the claim. He got approved. Let me see. I want to make sure that I'm covering everything. Oh, death benefits. If the veteran passes away of a service-connected death, then the VA is going to pay the survivor $2,000. Now, this is paid by check. This is one of the few times that the VA pays something by check. And if it's a service-connected death, it's $2,000. If it's a non-service connected death, VA is going to pay $700. Now, widows also wonder, you know, when they file a claim for DIC, I require their bank information. I need the name of their bank, the routing number, and the account number. The VA is not going to check how much money you have in the bank. The VA doesn't care if you've got $1 or $1 million. The VA pays by direct deposit. That's the reason why you have to provide that information to your veteran service officer when you file a claim. The only time that the VA pays by check anymore is for the actual death benefits. I hate to be sarcastic or whatever else like this, but PTSD. If you were in a combat zone, if you served in a combat zone since 2001, and you have a Valor Award, such as a Bronze Star with a V, a Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross, but the Bronze Star has to have a V on it. There's also cases where Army Commendation Medals with Vs are issued, okay? But it has to have the V for Valor on it. If you have that on your 214, and this is going to be listed on your 214, so it's important that you check it when you get out, when you separate. But if you have a Combat or Valor Award and you've been in a combat zone since 2001, the VA automatically recognizes that you have PTSD. All you have to have is a current diagnosis, and the VA is going to grant your claim. If you were not in a combat zone, you can still claim PTSD, let me take that back. If you were in a combat zone, you can still claim PTSD. You know, maybe you got mortared, maybe, you know, you lost a close friend or something like this. All you do is a statement in support of your claim, and no documentation is necessary. The VA is going on your word. Sleep apnea. Just because the VA has diagnosed you with sleep apnea, just because they give you a machine, the VA is not going to compensate you. You have to have had a diagnosis of sleep apnea while you were on active duty. Now, however, there's caveats to that. The VA recognizes that there are 50 causes of sleep apnea that are directly attributable to a disability. So just because you weren't diagnosed with it doesn't mean that you can't have it, but you know, discuss it with your veteran service officer. Last thing that I want to cover is veteran service officers. Okay, who can file a claim? The VA has a website set up. I think it used to be e-benefits. I think it's transitioned to another one now. But you can actually file a disability claim using your home computer, and you check the boxes, fill in the information or whatever else like this, hit the send button, and there's a good chance that the claim is going to be denied because the VA doesn't tell you what the additional documentation is that's needed in support of your claim. That's why I say you should always contact a veteran service officer to get the latest and the greatest information. Now, there are two types of veteran service officers. There are accredited service officers, which they have completed a course of training. by the VA. They have passed a background investigation, which is conducted by the VA, and they're currently serving as a veteran service officer, and the VA will accredit them. That means if any claim that they file goes directly to the VA, and if they have questions about a claim, they can tap into the VA computer system and see what's going on with the claim. The other type of service officer is a certified service officer. Now, certified service officer, they have to take the same course of training that the accredited service officer does. But they are not, in my case, since I'm not I'm a county veteran service officer. So since I'm not an employee of Coryell County, I cannot be accredited. Now, what that means is any claim that I file goes directly to the VA, goes directly into the VA computer system. Don't pass go, don't pass go, don't collect $200. It leaves my computer and goes directly into the VA computer system. What that means is, since I'm not accredited, if a person comes in and they have a question about their claim or a previous claim, I can't answer it because I cannot tap into the VA computer system. What that means is I have to stop and call one of my friends who's accredited, and they have to stop what they're doing and get the information back to me. Sometimes that can take 30 minutes. Sometimes it can take 2 days, which is unfortunate, but that's the way that the system is set up. The third thing that you can do is there are people that will file a claim for you, and they charge you a fee. There are a lot of attorneys out there who are accredited by the VA, and they can file claims directly with the VA. They can also tap into the VA computer system and find out what's wrong. But they charge any recovery that they make, they charge a percentage of the recovery. There are also people out there who charge you a fee up front to file paperwork with the VA. Whether you choose to go that route or not is your own choice. As a certified or accredited veteran service officer, we are not allowed to accept any form of compensation other than, what we're paid by the county. I wanted to cover aid and attendance a little bit. One of the things, the internet's great. There's a lot of information available on the internet. One of the things that that's another flavor of the month is if you're a veteran or a widow or a spouse, you can apply for a pension from the government. Let me give you a little bit of background on this. The VA recognizes that, there are people who have low income in the United States. Right now, the government minimum is approximately $14,000. The government says if you make under $14,000, you're considered impoverished. So say the veteran or the spouse has $12,000 in income. They're getting Social Security, whatever, okay? Their total income comes to $12,000. That leaves a shortfall of $2,000, okay? They can apply for a pension from the government. The government is not going to give them $14,000. What they're going to do is they're going to say the government minimum is $14,000. You have total income of $12,000. You have a shortfall of $2,000. They're going to take that $2,000 and divide it by 12, and they're going to pay $166.66 a month. So But there's a lot of people there. You can go on the internet, veterans pension, apply for it now. But that's the real truth. Okay, so I can now for the questions, I I will please ask general questions. If you have something related specifically to your claim, please contact me and I'll be happy to discuss it, because I don't want to violate any privacy or anything else like this. So specific questions I won't answer. You can contact me. General questions I'll answer. I have something. What are the rating items and conditions that connect for sleep apnea? Unfortunately, I can't answer that right now because I'm not in the office with my information. I do know that for sleep apnea, it has to have been diagnosed while you was on active duty. You had to have had a sleep study conducted, and then you submit it to the VA. But anything more specific than that, I can't answer. I'm sorry. Let me see. Just asking about. Let me see what else here.
Here, I can read them off too.
Okay.
And Lorianne or Nancy, feel free to come off if you want
Okay.
more to your questions. I think Nancy, you were asking about like, what if you're already over 100% service connected, but there are other developing things like Agent Orange or something like that. Is it worth?
Absolutely. You should, even though you're rated at 100%, if you have something else go wrong with you, you should always make a claim for it. The VA is not going to give you any more money for it, but it's going to be listed as service connected, and that means the VA is going to treat you for it. Again, that goes back to the 0% that you may get on a condition. The VA recognizes that it's a service connected injury. It just doesn't meet the threshold for compensation, but the VA will treat you for it for free. Now, the other thing that you have to understand is if you go to the VA for medical treatment for a service connected injury, okay, then the VA is going to pay you round trip mileage from your residence to the VA clinic. So like I live in Cypress Cove, and the closest one that is in is the Temple VA, and every time I go up there, it's I think $35 round trip. So,
let me clarify the question. We're at a rating number VA now of 100%.
You're what?
I said VA now.
Okay.
Rating number of 100%. 290 in normal people, but 100% in VA. The VA's wonderful, interesting math equations, and Agent Orange is recognized. That's not a question. And certain conditions are already attributed back to the Agent Orange. But now more conditions that are now being deemed presumptive to Agent Orange are cropping up. So the question is it worth the work to file for those items to be, I'll say, recognized on his record when it's Agent Orange is already recognized? Therefore, everything is being considered service connected without doing the claim.
If he's at 100%, he should still file the claim.
Okay.
Because the VA is going to treat him for it.
But they're already treating him for it.
Okay.
That's happening already.
Yeah. If
so
he's not,
it's not a treatment question. Is it worth the effort? Does it accomplish anything in the long run?
That's a decision that you have to make on your own, ma'am. Okay. I encourage the veterans to file just to make it a matter of record. And the other reason is when the veteran, I hate to say this, but we have to talk about death. Okay, if he passes and it's considered, and the condition is on the death certificate, that's considered a service-connected death, and you are going to be entitled for DIC. Now, the DIC is paid by the VA. This is over, and DIC is over and above any other money that you may receive. And DIC doesn't have to be reported to anybody. Okay? I mean, that money is, that money doesn't exist. It just comes in once a month.
To really quickly elaborate on that, I've heard from some veteran spouses whose veteran spouse has passed, and they were like in the process of navigating getting service connection documentation. Is there anything a widowed spouse can do after the death of their veteran if it hasn't been approved, if it's related to their death?
Case in point, I was a couple of years ago, I was helping a veteran. He was homebound, and he couldn't come into the office. So I went to his residence, and I took several documents with me. One of them was an intent to file, which just lets the VA know that there was a claim coming down the pike. I had his name, date of birth, Social Security, and I had all the necessary information. So I prepared the documents ahead of time, and I got him to sign the intent to file. When I went to his house, I didn't know what his conditions were, what his disabilities were. So I sat there and discussed, he was a Vietnam veteran. And so I was sitting there writing it up, and I went back to my office and to type up the paperwork, and quitting time came around. So I submitted the intent to file to the VA, because that's what I'm supposed to do. It was signed by the veteran. That was on a Thursday. I came back to work on Monday morning and got a call from his wife. He had passed away. Okay. Now, as soon as I got we had to wait for the death certificate, and the death certificate was related to Agent Orange condition, and she was able to file as a substitute claimant, and she received DIC. So yes, always, you have to understand, the veteran service officer is not the VA. Okay, they cannot tell you not to file a claim. Okay, if he tells you not to file a claim, go find another veteran service officer, because it's not the job of the veteran service officer to deny you the ability to file a claim. Okay, their job is to explain the ramifications of filing a claim, but if the person insists, they're supposed to file the claim. Now, I forgot to bring this out. I want to say you've got a rating of 70%, okay, and you're all happy because, hey, you got a 70% rating. But after you get the 70% rating, you never go back to the doctor again. Okay, the VA routinely reviews medical VA claims, and about every 5 years, they're going to sit there and say, oh, let's review old Richard's medical records today. Okay, and they're going to list what the disabilities are, and they're going to look and say, Richard ain't been seen by a doctor at the VA for 5 years. So they're going to send out a letter saying, well, you must be cured. We're proposing discontinuance. Okay, and they're going to lower they're going to say, we're going to lower your rating from 70% to 10%. Happens all the time. The the veterans panic. Okay. And the question that I have is, okay, you weren't seen by the VA. Have you been treated by a private physician? Oh yeah, I go to the doctor all the time. Get me the medical records and I send them to the VA and it goes away. But on the other hand, if you're not being seen by a doctor, okay, and the VA runs your name, there's a good chance that they're going to lower your rating. Also, if you've got prostate cancer from Agent Orange, okay, the VA recognizes that prostate cancer is, related to Agent Orange, so that's automatically they're going to grant you service connection. They may even grant you 100%. After 6 months, they're going to lower that right. If you undergo surgery for the prostate, 6 months after the surgery, they're going to lower your rating. So what you have to do then is there's residuals of prostate cancer. Okay, say there's urinary incontinence or whatever it is. Okay, all you do is get these records and you file the paperwork with the VA and your rating will go up. So there's more than one way to skin a cat with the VA. It's simple, but it's not. And you have to have somebody that has been doing it for a little bit of time. Veterans with 100% disability rating are not paying property taxes in Texas. That's true. Are there any property tax benefits for veterans with a lesser disability rating? You have to contact your local county tax office. Take a copy of your rating letter in with you and see what kind of break that you can get. And everybody gripes about VA math, but you have to understand that this came out during World War II, and there was actually a mathematician involved in it. And the short question, when you go into the military, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When you go into the military, you're at 100%. Okay. So later on, you file a disability claim with the VA, and the VA comes back and they give you a 50% rating. Okay. So, and then they give you a 10% rating. So 50 and 10 is 60. Okay, VA math, okay, the first 50% counts. Then you have, that's 50% left over. So what's 10% of 50? 4. Okay, so your rating is going to go up to 54%. Okay, now the VA runs on a scale of 0 to 9. Okay, so from 0 to 4, okay, you go to the next lower rating. Okay, 5 to 9, you go to the next higher rating. I'm currently at 90. I'm currently at 93%. Okay, 93%. So I'm rated at 90%. In order to get that, in order to get 100%, I'm going to have to come up with 5 conditions rated at 10% or better, or 1 condition of 50%, or any combination in order to get that. So that's the reason why people they get frustrated at VA math, but it's really very simple once you figure it out.
No, I just laugh about it. It's like I was adding it up the other day because I was working on a community care authorization, and I said, "Oh, it's all printed here. Let me add it up just out of curiosity." And I added it all up. It was 290%, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's how we finally got to 100%."
Yeah, and that's finally how it happens to me all the time. People come in, they're 70, 80, 90%, and they want the 100, because they've been talking to their buddy, and their buddy's at 100%. Okay, well, you have to understand that not all conditions are the same, and maybe their buddy did something that he didn't do, or maybe the buddy claimed something that you didn't claim. So, I spend probably 70% of my time processing death claims. Since COVID hit, I processed over 80 death claims for spouses, and the rest of the time is how do I get my rating higher?
So if you're in a situation where, if I heard you correctly, the veteran is at 100%, and that 100% has been more than 10 years service connected, then DIC for the widow is not a problem.
DIC for the widow is not a problem.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Lori,
Now,
do you have another question?
what did your husband retire from the military?
No, he did.
No. Okay. Yeah.
Pull
See.
that out.
Yeah. Okay. See, a lot of Lori Ann, when your husband retires, is he going to take the survivor's benefit plan?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Well, see, here's the deal. Okay. Survivor's benefit plan, the spouse gets 55% of his retired pay. Okay. In the old days, you couldn't get DIC and SBP at the same time. So people always took the DIC money because that money's tax-free. What they didn't understand is all the premiums that were paid in to the survivor's benefit plan were refunded to the widow. Okay, but now that was called the widow's tax. Now they've changed the law, so now you can receive both DIC and SBP at the same time. You just have to remember that the DIC money is non-taxable income. The SBP money is taxable income. Okay. They personally had getting a copy of my medical records from the archives. Do you have any advice on navigating? No, because if you contact St. Louis, they're going to say they got burned up in the fire. Straight, Now, you don't need medical records, okay, from the archives, okay. This is where orders come in. I had a guy who was in Vietnam, but Vietnam wasn't listed on his 214 because it wasn't doing it at the time. He got a Bronze Star. Okay, the Bronze Star was listed on the 214. Okay, it wasn't a Valor Award, but it was still a Bronze Star. He brought me a copy of the citation in, the accompanying citation. Tech Sergeant Smith, was the 155th Mess Kit Repair Company, Pleiku, Vietnam. There's the proof right there. So it's not always necessary to have hard copy medical records in your hands. You can support this by other documentation. And the VA is required to take the veteran's word. If no medical records exist and they say he was a paratrooper, okay, and he broke his leg, there's no medical record, no medical evidence of it or whatever else like this, the VA's got to accept the word of the veteran that he broke his leg. Now, they may not compensate him for it because if he's still walking on the leg now with no problems, they may not compensate him for it. Let me see here. And, education benefits. I can't answer educational benefits. That's up to the servicing institution. Okay, we've went way over. If I'm rattling on, tell me to shut up and I'll leave. Okay. But the VA has just came up with a new program called, there's 9 more respiratory cancers that have been presumed to be exposed by burn pit exposure. So there's 9 new deals, and also there's what's called a yellow ribbon program. If you're a post 9/11 veteran and you want to go to Harvard, but your GI Bill money is not going to cover the tuition, then if you're accepted into Harvard, then the VA will work with the school to get your tuition reduced so that you can attend at a reduced rate. But that's the reason why you should always contact the school where you're planning on attending, because they are the ones who can tell you the current information.
Well, Nancy or Lorianne, any other burning questions?
Well, I'll just share. We were on a call the other day where they were talking about conditions like the ones that just got included in the burn pit stuff, and a whole bunch more things are considered presumptive to Agent Orange now.
Oh, yes.
One
I mean,
of
there's,
which is thyroid issues.
yes. And there's,
It's the reason I asked the question, is it worth filing?
yeah. But it's up to you. It's up to the individual veteran whether he wants to file it or not. I always encourage him to do so, but it's up to them to do it.
I guess the only question I still had, I got a little confused early on in the discussion about the retroactive pay for, you can file a claim at any point. I know that.
Yes.
But you don't get retroactive pay for the service member or for service member spouses and dependents.
Service member spouses.
Okay,
and
spouses.
dependents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you file a claim, one of the documents that you file is what's known as an intent to file.
Right.
And that intent to file is good for 1 year. That gives you time to gather your evidence to submit the claim. So say it takes you 8 months to gather your evidence, and then you submit the claim, and it takes the VA a year to decide the claim. You're paid retroactive back to the date on the intent to file.
On the intent to file.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, say the veteran is rated at 30% or better, and 10 years later, he finds out that he's eligible for the extra money for his spouse. So he runs down to the local veteran service officer. All he has to do is bring in a copy of his marriage license. I send it off to the VA, and they're gonna pay him from the date that he submitted the application, not 10 years back.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I will say, from our personal experience, if you do get divorced, let them know that you get divorced, because my husband did not for his previous relationship, and they made us pay back that retroactive dependent pay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
keep your records updated.
Anytime that there's a change, you have to report it to the VA.
Well, Richard, thank you so much. I mean, I feel like we could talk for a million more hours about all these details. We hope to have you back sometime, but we really appreciate this. This was really helpful, just to converse and hear your expertise. And also, I really appreciate the examples. It very helped illustrate what some people might be dealing with. So thank you so much.
I'm not an expert. An expert is a have been, and a spurt is a big drip. But I do have a lot of knowledge or whatever else like this, and I'm more than happy to pass it on. Now, if somebody, I encourage you to contact your local veteran service officer. If, however, you decide that, you fell in love with me and you want to work with me, I have no problem with that. It's just that at some point in time, you're going to have to make an appearance in my office so that I can see you personally, because I don't file claims. I don't take signatures over the internet or whatever else like this. At some point in time, you're actually going to have to show up so that I can see you face to face.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm going to follow up. Nancy, I know I put a lot of stuff in there, but I'll follow up via email and share that awesome information as well with some folks I know who couldn't make it tonight, along with this recording. So if no one has to remember all the helpful details that you shared. Any last words or anything, Richard, or anybody else?
Thanks. Nice meeting y'all.
No, thank you very much.
All right. Well, you guys have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.